What if every single time your plan fell apart? It was actually falling into place. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share is going to completely change the way you see the disappointments, the delays, and the detours in your life. And I need you to watch until the very end, because the twist in this story, nobody sees it coming. There was a young man named Caleb, not rich, not powerful, just hardworking, wide-eyed, and hungry for more. He lived in a small, dusty village tucked between old hills, the kind of place where everybody knows your name and everybody also knows your limits. But Caleb refused to believe in limits. Every night, long after his family fell asleep, he sat beside a flickering oil lamp and traced his future in the dirt floor with his finger. This is the road I will take. This is where my life begins. He had heard stories of great merchant caravans passing through the Eastern Pass, traders who carried silk, spices, and silver across vast distances, men who started with nothing and returned with everything. Caleb wanted to be one of them. He had been saving coins for months, stitching them into the hem of his traveling cloak where nobody could steal them. He told himself, "This is my season. I have been patient long enough." Sound familiar? Keep watching, because what happens next is not what you'd expect. The morning came. Caleb rose before sunrise, kissed his mother on the forehead, and stepped into the cool air with a bundle on his back and fire in his chest. His mother pressed a rough woolen cloak into his hands. "May God guard your steps, my son," he smiled, and walked. But when he reached the river at the edge of the village, he stopped cold. The bridge was gone, not damaged, gone. A violent storm the night before had swallowed the old wooden crossing hole. The river roared past, brown and wild, carrying planks of wood like broken promises. Caleb stood there, staring at the water. His bundle suddenly felt very heavy. Today of all days, how? The village workers shook their heads slowly. 2 weeks at least before we rebuild it, they said. He walked home with the same cloak his mother had just handed him. He sat beside his lamp that night and asked the question so many of us have asked into the silence of our rooms: God, are you even watching? You remember the story of Joseph in Genesis. He had a dream, a God-given dream, and the very next thing that happened was his brothers threw him in a pit. Not a detour, a pit, but the Bible says the Lord was with Joseph, even inside the pit, even when Joseph could not see it. Your broken bridge might be your pit. Keep watching. Weeks passed. The bridge was rebuilt. Caleb saved more coins. He packed his bundle again. But just as he tied the laces on his sandals to leave, his younger sister burst through the doorway, face wet with tears. Father fell. He fell from the roof. "Caleb, please come quickly." His father lay on the ground outside, pale, unable to move his legs. The village healer shook his head gravely. "He must not walk for many months. He needs constant care." Caleb looked at the open door. He looked at his father's face, lined with years of sacrifice, now tight with pain. He knelt down. He unpacked his bundle quietly. Without a word, some of you watching this right now have been in that exact moment. Not a bridge, not a river, but a moment when your own dream stood in one doorway and someone you loved stood in another. And you had to choose. What did Caleb do next? Because this is where his real story, and maybe yours, truly begins. Months passed. Then more months. Caleb cooked. He carried water from the well. He worked the fields in silence. He fixed the crumbling corners of their house. He did not draw plans in the dust anymore. He just worked, day after day. No one saw it as anything special. The villagers passed by and saw a young man doing chores. But God, and this is something I want you to hold, God was watching something else entirely. He was watching what Caleb was becoming inside the waiting. Because here is what the Bible teaches us in Romans 5. Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Suffering produces shortcuts. Suffering produces character. And character is the soil where real destiny grows, but Caleb didn't know that yet. And when the third door closed, it almost broke him completely. His father could finally walk again, leaning on a carved stick, but walking. Hope returned to Caleb's chest like a warm fire. He heard word that a great caravan was passing within a day's walk of the village, the largest trading group to come through in years. The leader was known for hearing strong, loyal young men. "This is it," Caleb told himself. "This is the moment I've been waiting for." He rose before dawn. He packed his bundle one more time. He stepped into the courtyard and found his donkey collapsed on its side, feverish and unable to stand. Without the donkey, he could not reach the crossroads in time. It was over. Caleb sank to his knees right there in the dust. He pressed his forehead to the ground and said what so many broken hearts have said in private. "Why do you keep closing every door I try to open? Do you not see me? Do you not see my work, my pain, my patience?" He wept, not softly. He wept the way a man weeps when he is finally completely exhausted, and then he stood up, wiped his face, and walked to the fields because he didn't know what else to do. In 1 Kings 19, the prophet Elijah sat under a tree and said, "It is enough. I've had enough, Lord, take my life." He was done. He was broken. And what did God do? He didn't give Elijah a sermon. He let him sleep. Then he gave him bread. Then he said, "The journey is too great for you." God met Elijah in his exhaustion, not with answers, but with presence. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just keep walking to the field. Near the far edge of the field, Caleb noticed an old woman crouching low to the earth, moving her hands through the soil with slow, deliberate care. Her name was Miriam. She had lived alone for as long as anyone could remember, quiet, weathered, and unusually wise. The village children said she could read the seasons in the color of a stone. She looked up and saw Caleb's face. You don't need someone to describe grief to you when you can see it walking. "Come here, young man. Come sit." Caleb sat on a flat rock, and the words he had been holding inside for 2 years poured out like water from a cracked jar. The bridge, his father, the donkey, the caravan, the prayers that seemed to bounce off the ceiling and fall back down unanswered. Miriam listened to every word. She never interrupted. She never said, "It'll be okay." When he finished, she reached into the fold of her robe and placed 2 small seeds in his palm. "Take those to the hard path where you walk every day, the dry, packed one near the old wall. Press 1 seed into it. Then take the other and press it into the earth beside the stream to the south, where the soil is dark and soft. Then go home, work, rest, pray, come back after many weeks." Caleb looked at the seeds. They were unremarkable. He wanted answers, and she had given him seeds, but something in her eyes stopped him from arguing. He did exactly as she said. And what those 2 tiny seeds revealed changed the entire way Caleb saw his life. Don't go anywhere. Weeks passed. Life moves as it always does, whether we're ready or not. One cool morning, Caleb remembered. He walked first to the hard path. He found the spot. He looked closely. Nothing. The earth was cracked and pale. Footprints from people and animals had pressed across it 1,000 times. The seed was gone, crushed or dry, swallowed by nothing. Then he walked south to the stream. And there, green and upright and quietly extraordinary, stood a small plant. Its leaves were bright. Its stem was firm. It swayed gently in the morning breeze, but its roots held it completely still beneath the surface. Miriam was already standing there, watching him. "Tell me what you see," she said. Caleb looked at the path, looked at the stream. And slowly, quietly, something shifted inside his chest. "1 seed died," he said. "The other lives because the ground was different." Miriam nodded. "You pressed both seeds into the earth with the same hope and the same hand, but only one place could hold their life. Now, do you think the first seed was a bad seed?" Caleb shook his head. "No, the ground was wrong." "Then consider this," she said softly. "What if your plans were never bad plans? What if you were simply pressing them into the wrong ground that could not hold what you were meant to become? And what if a wiser hand than yours has been turning you not away from your life, but toward the soil where your life can actually grow?" Caleb stood very still. "Doors that closed on you," she continued, "were not punishments, they were redirections. The bridge broke because the road beyond it was not your road. Your father fell because what you were meant to build was not out there, it was here. Not every delay is denial. Some delays are protection. Some detours are preparation." In Jeremiah 29:11, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope." Notice what God does not say. He does not say, "Plans that match your plans." He says, "My plans." And sometimes God's plans look like closed doors, broken bridges, and sick donkeys. Because He is not rerouting your GPS out of cruelty. He is routing you away from stone toward soft ground. From that day, something quiet but powerful shifted inside Caleb. He began to tend the plant by the stream. He cleared the weeds around it. He brought water during dry weeks. He built a small fence of sticks to protect it from grazing animals. He didn't know what it would become. He just cared for it faithfully. Season after season, the plant grew first into a sapling, then into something with real bark and reaching branches, then into a tree wide, deep-rooted, with branches that spread over the path and offered shade to anyone who passed. Caleb built a simple wooden shelter beneath it. He placed a clay jar of fresh water there every morning, a small bench of flat stones. Travelers began to stop. Merchants rested there. Families on long, dusty journeys sat in its shade and breathed. People started saying to one another, "Rest at Caleb's tree, you'll find water there and peace." Caleb had not gone out into the world to find his purpose. His purpose had found its way to him. Many years later, on an evening when the sky burned orange and the first stars were just appearing, a large caravan came down the road. 40 men, maybe more. Their animals were exhausted. Their leader was pale and feverish, barely able to sit upright on his mount. They saw the tree, the shelter, the jar of water. They stopped. Caleb brought bread, oil, and more water. He opened his home. He sat with the sick leader through the night, cooling his brow and keeping the fire alive. By morning, the leader's color had returned. He lay under the wide branches of Caleb's tree and stared up through the leaves at the pale early sky. Then he looked at Caleb, at his rough hands, his quiet eyes, his unhurried kindness. "In 20 years of traveling," the leader said slowly, "I have not rested in a place like this." "Who built it?" Caleb smiled gently. "I planted a seed and I showed up to water it." Leader sat up. "I want this place to stand for every caravan that passes this road. Stay here, guard this place. I will send grain and oil to your family every season. Everything you need you will have." Caleb had never left his village, and the world had come to him. Many nights after that, Caleb sat beneath his tree, older now, quieter, fuller, and watched the stars flicker through the canopy of branches above him. He thought about the bridge. He thought about the morning his father fell. He thought about the donkey in the dust and the prayer he had wept into the ground. He did not feel forgotten when he looked back. He felt guided, because now he could see what he could not see then, that every door that had closed was simply the road being redirected. That the delays were not evidence of abandonment but of preparation. That the ground he had stayed to tend was the very ground his life was always meant to grow in. He bowed his head beneath the branches and whispered, "You knew all along. You knew what I needed before I knew what to ask for. Thank you." So here is what I want to leave with you today. Maybe right now, you are standing at a broken bridge. Maybe someone you love has fallen and your plans are sitting in the corner, gathering dust. Maybe you've prayed the same prayer so many times you've started to wonder if anyone is listening. I want you to hear this. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. The seed in you is not dead. It may simply be in the wrong ground, yet being moved even now towards soil it can actually grow in. Do what Caleb did. Show up. Tend what is in front of you. Be faithful with the small field you have right now, even when you want the open road, because the road has a way of eventually finding the faithful. And here is the truth the Bible has always known. God's timing is not slow, it is precise. What is truly meant for you will not pass you by. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs it right now. Leave a comment below. What is your broken bridge? Let's talk about it. And if you want more stories like this one, subscribe, because we are just getting started. For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1.